Hi there, traders, and welcome to Trade the Structure and another morning wrap of the US session. What happened overnight? Coming into the Asian market session, we'll go through all the bits and pieces of where to look for some trades. So, week's coming to an end. We've got Friday now, last session for the week for the Asian markets, the Aussie markets. So, we'll see how that plays out. Now, we're looking at the ASX 200 here, or actually the SPY, I think. We're looking at the ASX 2 or the SPY 200. There you go. We'll look at the ASX 200 in just a moment. So that's the action. So it was closed most of yesterday, which has been annoying if you're an intraday trader. Didn't have much to do, just sort of twiddling your thumbs, watching the share market move around. Now, when it did actually open, it pushed down a bit just into the close. Then we had this retest of it sitting on 90 in the European session before we started edging away back up. Now, that wasn't a big rally considering what the US did. We didn't get out of hand too much. Now, I am expecting it's a bit of a flush through the open, so you get a bit more bullishness from the retail when they open the market at around 10 o'clock. I wouldn't. I would expect that sort of the flush there. It's whether it's going to hold that 72.66 and continue to ramp up into the weekend. I'm sort of more inclined to think we're going to sort of flush higher, had a good flush, and then drift lower into the weekend, considering it's a Friday as well. So that's sort of what I'm looking for. I wouldn't expect it to get too out of hand. Remember, the US has been up quite strong for two or three sessions. And also maybe weighing on that could be Hang Seng. Hang Seng's been up nearly 3,000 points in two sessions, so they've really bounced back hard. It's probably a bit of an overreaction to the downside, and they're just making it back. But if they sort of fade into the weekend as well, we might drag us lower. ASX 200, not much difference. So we're sort of expecting that to pop up, maybe testing at 73.34 and then drift lower. Like I said, been a weekend. Hang Seng, you can see this is a big move up. So if you measure that out, sort of from these lows to the highs, just over 3,000 points. If you're looking at from there to there, you're getting about just under 3,000 points. So that's a big move. That was a big spike up. Hard to get on because it was just news driven. Okay, so bit hard to get on that sort of that rally there. You're going to be looking for those minor pullbacks, but if you're looking at the 1 minute chart, you're sort of just taking that risk that it's going to continue on up. But you can see that trade has been, it's been range bound between 27.40 and 21.315. Now that's a big range. I could expect that would potentially flush up through that 21.315 and then fade. Okay, looking for that lower high. I don't expect it to, after that sort of sideways action, I don't expect it to take off again. All right, look, it could do, but I would expect maybe a bit of profit taking after that 3,000 point rally. So profit taking could be just into this support zone at 27.40. So it could be more range sort of bound action, but I'm sort of looking for it to drift lower. Okay, Nikkei is much the same sort of range bound. This was the open, sort of popped up, pulled back, and then you get that rally through the Asian market session to the start of the European session. We got it sold off, found a bit of a base here at 26.515, and then worked its way back up to these highs at 26.770. But you can see that last sort of price action there. For me, it's choppy, and that signifies there is actually sellers up here, and potentially we're not going to get through that 26.770. So if it's going to go higher, I'd sort of be looking for that flush and then consolidate around there and that secondary leg up to 26.880, which you could easily pump 100 points, 110 points or so. So that's not a big move. It could just as easily flush down, okay, back down and retest this 26.515 area. All right, so the Dow spent most of that session yesterday, Asian and European markets, just doing that, heading sideways. So this little ramp up, didn't do anything, and then pumped up through that 34,150 area in the US session, or from the US session start. Now you can see I've marked up the MACD. It's a bit stretched at the moment, a bit extended, so it may need to push back in. If I was looking for longs, ideally I'd be looking from back off that 3150 area. 34,150 area, sorry, and I'd be looking for the higher low to work along off. So I think it just needs to clean out some of these buyers, clean them out, retest that level and go. Okay, this is obviously, it could just keep grinding higher all session and grind its way up to that 35,025 area. And that I would expect would probably be, that's a big move. That's a 600-700 point move. So I think it could just grind like that. I don't think it's going to get anywhere near there at the start of the US session, but it could pop up there later in the US session if it's still feeling bullish and then fade into the close. US tech, you can see that popped up through this level here at 13,847, took out 13,940, consolidated, tried to consolidate, pushed back, retested it, and then ran. Okay, so at the moment we're sort of in that expansionary phase, meaning the market's sort of heading higher. Like I said, it's getting a bit, this is not such a great sign. You've got that divergence, you call it, so momentum's starting to ease as we get higher. But it doesn't mean that move up, because the bias is up at the moment. Doesn't mean that move up is finished just yet. You'd be looking at these little minor levels through here. That's about, what do we got there? 14,020 as holding that leg up. So if it sort of consolidates here, we might get it to move up through those highs. So that's kind of the play you'd be looking at. If we do start to fade through this, the anchor to this move up, which is just here, was it 14,020, then you'd be looking for a lower high to sell into and just to squeeze some of these buys out. There's been quite a few buys, and that's not from just this area, 13,847, but way down at 12,965. They really haven't been put under too much pressure. Okay, apart from this chop around here, and we blasted higher, they haven't been put under too much pressure. So if we start to break down here, there's a good opportunity for a short. If we continue to hold this area, basically right where we are, then you look to see if you can get on board. It's a 15-minute chart. Get on board, say a 5 or so, 5-minute chart for that little pop up. Now the DAX was held at that 14,510 area, faded off there, sort of popping up, but it looks like the momentum's fading again. So this could be a lower high. If that's the case, then I'll sort of be looking for, if we're going to stretch this out, here we go. I'll be looking for, that's the move down. If that's going to be a lower high, a move back into that 14,060 area, because again, like the US markets, they've had a couple of 500-point days. They've had some solid sessions. Okay, a bit of heat come out of the market last night, but it could easily go a bit lower, and you'd be looking for really a breakthrough that zone through there. Okay, which is 14,238. If we start to break through there, I'll be looking for shorts coming to the European Open. UK, now they raised rates. It was expected, that was anticipated, but the market did get a little bit of, considering that the DAX was down, and the US did kick higher, but the FTSE was happy to just push on up, which is the UK 100. Okay, it was happy to just sort of keep jamming its way higher. Okay, you can see the pound, which we'll look at in just a moment. That was sold off on the number, so it's sort of buy the rumor, sell the fact. Expectations that rates are going to push higher. I would have expected there'd be a bit more love into the pound, but yeah, the markets don't trade fairly. They'll ramp it up, and then as soon as the number comes out, everyone expecting it higher, and they just push it back down again, take out all their stops. So that was the FTSE, that was the pound. But the FTSE, was happy to just continue its way higher. Good. Yeah, I think that's probably a reaction like the US. It's kind of like you don't expect in a rate rising cycle the markets to continue higher. Probably the UK market's a bit undervalued compared to the US, but again, like I said, I don't really expect in a rate rising cycle this US market to continue to power higher. I think it's going to come to a point where it's just going to dump on some of these longs, but we'll see. We'll have to wait and see. Like I said yesterday, price action is key. If you're trading price action, you sort of can't go wrong. Whatever you believe, it's hard to keep your biases out, but you've got to keep your biases out when you're trading. If you're biased down, it's going to make it really hard to take a long, which could be kick on, like I said here, if you're biased down here and you saw this little move in here, if we can just circle that little move in there, and you're biased down, you don't want to take the long, and you've missed out on potentially a good little trade which took out 100 points. Okay. Currencies. So like I said, US pound went down, but the US dollar actually went down as well. Okay, just confirm that. It did sell off. Where are we? Dollar. It did sell off pretty much most of the US session. Yep, 11:30. Basically, open the US session, the US dollar went down. Okay, and it's been going down for a while. Now, bond yields, also they're going up, so the bonds are going down. Okay, so it's kind of that. I think it's just a flush of the US dollar. If it's a flush of the US dollar, maybe it's factored in the rate rises that it's anticipating, but I would expect it sort of pulling back, flushing out some longs before an aggressive Fed continue to raise rates, and that starts to charge higher again. Okay, so bullish on rate rises should be bullish the US dollar. It's just how much it's sort of factored in, but I don't think it's factored in that hell of a lot just yet. We'll wait and see. And if the market tips over, you're going to get a rally into the US dollar as well. It's a safe haven. So the bond prices are sort of pointing to me that there should be some more upside pressure into the US dollar, which would mean a bit of a move down into your currencies, the Aussie, Euro, Pound, and so on. A bit of pressure into those markets. And now with the Aussie, I'm expecting a deeper pullback to that 73.63 if it wants to go higher. Maybe just flush out this level 73.72, a deeper pullback, maybe flush that level and then rally if it's going to do that, if it wants to do that. Okay, maybe something like this, and then you can get a higher low, and then the market to move back up. Maybe looking to push to 74.28, but I don't expect that if the US dollar is going to rally. This could just be a straight out fade. Okay, you might get a bit of a pop here, take out the high, and then we fade. Okay, if you can see those crisscross moves, but that's one move, that's the other move up. So I would expect that if we're going to sort of pop up through these highs and start to fade, I would expect that to marry up with sort of the open of the European session. Okay, we'll wait and see that one. European markets, sorry, the euro, ramped straight up, and that's with the sell-off in the US dollar. So the US dollar started selling off about here, 11:30, when that was handy that the European market started ploughing higher, or the euro started ploughing higher. See that support through there? It's kept whipping through. So we got this little flush through, big pullback, had another charge through, couldn't take out that, couldn't get it. Not really. It took out the high. It sort of took out this high too, with that little pop. But the fact is, it's pulled back and held. So it was. You can just see that they were building in position until we got that pump up to 11.27. Okay, took out the high there, didn't go very far. Pullback, took out the next high, didn't go very far, but on each pullback, it was getting supported at another high low, until finally any sellers gave up. Okay, they just gave up, turned around, and then basically had to buy back into the market, and the market charged higher, and they just added to those longs on the way up. All right, so from here, that was a good little reaction off 11.27. If I'm going to go short, I want to see that lower high. I want to see another retest in the area, that fail at a lower level, and see if we can get a deeper squeeze, potentially back down to 10.30. But again, like I said, it's going to have to depend on what the US dollar does. And like I said, if the US dollar does pop higher, this is going to go lower. I just want to see that lower high first. Pound, that was that move down. So that was coming into 11 o'clock when they announced rates, pushed it up by a quarter percent, from 0.5% to 0.75%. So, interest rates are stepping higher. Not a major thing in the scheme of things. It's coming from a really low base, really, low base. And same with the US too. They were only raising it by 0.25%, which is a pretty good rate rise, but it's coming from a very low base. Okay, so that could be why the US is actually, rallying higher. Maybe they thought they're going to be a lot more aggressive, and potentially the Fed is going to be more aggressive down the track. They're just giving a bit of a heads up now. They didn't want to do it now, but they may be, okay, we're going to do it later, guys. They get too out of hand, and that pop into the US may be a selling opportunity for the big funds and things. Just keep it up here, get a better price, and then just sort of edge our way out into a positive market, into a bullish market, considering that rate rise is going to pressure things down the track. So all that going on, you got the pound got smacked down. It come down to 30.88, and then we're sort of we ramped straight back up again. It's looking like it wants to hold 31.40. The way it's sort of edging into that level, it's getting buying. So, in essence, if we do pop up here, I'll be looking for a minor lower high, higher low, and see if we can get a ramp back up to 31.90, and then just see what happens from there. If you can get something on like that and does push up to 31.90, fine. Okay, you've got about 50 points or so up your sleeve, 50 pips up your sleeve, and you could actually manage to have at least a break-even trade at the very minimum, and lock away some gains if it does have to ramp up there before falling over. US yen, that to me looks more like a buying opportunity, and that would work into a positive US dollar if that's the case. That sort of grind down there doesn't suggest that US dollar. If you look at the US dollar's point kind of really start to fall over, whereas that US yen is starting to hold up okay, holding up into this 118.50 level. So really, I want to see a higher low hold. So if it flushes down and starts to do this, then I'll be happy to go get long. Okay, but if it starts to flush down from there and take out the low, then we might just get this continued grind down. You don't know where that's going to go to. All right, so that way, if you start to grind down, you could actually just shorten off one of these highs again. Okay, another lower high. All right, gold. Now gold has, we were talking about this yesterday, has it broken that downtrend? It was going to go sideways. Now it's looking like it wants to go up. Okay, so that is a bit of a grind up. Now that's not after this kind of a push down, this flush down and that failure there. I'm not looking for continued strength, because the way it's come off that 1950 area, and you've got this little minor, just draw that up there, this little minor level there. I'm more expecting to get this lower high and pressure down, just to take out, really just to squeeze out some of these longs. Okay, and if we can hold up at this 1930 area and start to chop around here, that would make for a bigger move up. And then if you can hold that, you sort of got that, we chop around here for a while, maybe do something like that, and then have a bigger move up, potentially back above 2000. Okay, consolidation between those two levels would lead me to believe I'll be looking for a higher low and an expansionary phase back up again. Otherwise, if this doesn't hold, we get a lower high and we work through 1930, then you can just get a short on there. All right, what do we got here? Oil. Now, I should have filled the tank up yesterday. I've been holding off thinking if we keep going down, but the thing is, petrol prices didn't go down. I think it went from 203 $2.03 to $1.99. Now that's not much of a move when you're coming off $1.73 when oil was higher when it was trading at $1.73. So, it'd be interesting to see. I know they probably buy it per tanker, but it's gonna. I would expect it to be back above $2. So oil's gonna kill me. I'm gonna have to fill up. It's gonna annoy me, but that's the way it is. Now we've come off that 93.87 area. We could just be pushing into this resistance zone, so it's kind of retesting it from underneath. And if that's the case, and if it starts to support, sellers start to come back in at 106.70 or thereabouts, I would be looking for a move back down through 93.87. Okay, because that could be a good little move. Two things are going to happen if we start to get into here and fade, then we're going to look for a lower high and we're going to get a big drive down, something like that. Or we're just going to pop up, fail, and then start to base out here and then edge away higher. And that's another reason, you're looking at inflation, and that's another reason if oil starts to continue to hold around that dollar mark, $100 mark, or hold up above that $100 mark, that's going to add to the inflationary pressures, and that should be bearish for stocks. Okay, so it's kind of that thing where I think they've reacted higher. Maybe they're expecting a much more aggressive Fed right now, as opposed to down the track, in a month's time or 2 months' time. But I think in a month or 2 months' time, there's going to be a bit more selling pressure into shares. But for now, they're sort of popping up. But oil could, higher oil price is going to add to that pressure. Copper. Copper, we were talking about this yesterday, sort of holding in that zone 98.20 and pushing higher. It was just a grind higher. If you're trying to trade that, it was a really tough trade. Okay, it was tough to push that higher or to jump in on the long side, especially when you get this kind of move down, taking out the higher low. That's kind of a break of that trend, and then it's straight back up again. Okay, and that was at the start of the US session. So anytime you get to the start of the European, start of the US, just watch for that flush. Okay, the market, if it wants to go higher, it's going to flush the lows. It's going to take out stops. Okay, before ramping straight back up, and vice versa. If it wants to go lower, it's probably going to take out some highs. Trading the Hang Seng is notorious for that. You'll see it ramp up. Everyone will be getting long, trapping some longs, and then it'll fall over. Okay, and then same on the downside. Now, if this level is going to hold, we're looking for that, bid to offer prices at 103.65. We can see if we can extend on these gains and just grind our way back up to 103.65, and then see what happens from there. It could start to get heavy from there. Bitcoin, that didn't really do too much. It was holding up. Pretty much that was the open. Somewhere around here, started the Asian market session. It pretty much tipped up, and then basically went down. But in essence, it went sideways. It didn't really do anything, as opposed to Ethereum, which was trading around here and then pushed up to that 28.43. Now expect that little minor double top. I would be looking for that lower high to hold, see if they can hold, get through this little zone through here, and see if there could be a nice little short on. Okay, and then get that retested and short. Bitcoin to me looks like it's getting a bit heavy, but there's always that chance where this is going to happen. You're going to get that break, okay? And we could start to do this. If we do that, I'll be happy to look for that break and push up through 41.250. All right, that's pretty much it, guys. That's all I want to say. We're trying to keep these a bit shorter, but anyway, there's a lot to get through. All those major markets are kind of the movers. You've got a bit of everything, but if you're looking at copper, oil, gold, things like that, you're looking at the US dollar, which through the US yen, you look at those two together because they it's good if you want to see what's going to happen with the US dollar. The US yen can sort of paint a good picture as well. Like I said, US yen was not going down. It was more of a grind down, whereas the US dollar is banging down. Now, if it's a bit of a grind down, it's looking to me the US yen is not feeling like we're going to get too much weakness into the US dollar, and we're going to get more of a pop back up again. But we'll see. And you're looking at just those currencies, obviously the currencies and the indices. So that's all we want to go through. We'll keep it short there. Have a great weekend. And like I said, if you enjoy what you hear, it'd be great if you can leave us a like and help spread the word. Cheers, guys. We'll speak to you later. Bye.